What if I told you the fate of America's space race, the dream of touching the stars, once rested on the shoulders of a quiet, humble farmer's daughter from West Virginia? What if I told you that a single miscalculation could have cost John Glenn his life? But one woman, armed not with rockets or engines, but with nothing more than a pencil, paper, and an extraordinary mind, changed history forever. This is the story of Katherine Johnson. A story not just of numbers and equations, but of grit, of breaking barriers, and of a determination so powerful that it carried humanity beyond the skies. Katherine Coleman Johnson was born in 1918 in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. She was the youngest of 4 children in a family of farmers. Life was simple, modest, and often difficult. Her father worked as a lumberman and farmer, while her mother was a school teacher. But Katherine was not like other children. By the age of 10, she was already in high school. Numbers spoke to her the way music speaks to a musician. She saw patterns in the stars, equations in the dirt roads, and geometry in the fields her father plowed. Her father once said, "Katherine doesn't just count. She sees numbers as if they're alive." In those days, a young black girl from a farming town wasn't expected to dream big. The world tried to remind her of her place, but Katherine dreamed anyway. She wanted to become a mathematician, a dream that seemed almost impossible. Katherine's early journey was filled with barriers taller than the rockets she would one day calculate. First, there was poverty. Her parents couldn't afford to send her to schools nearby because in her county, black children were not allowed to attend beyond the 8th grade. To continue her education, her father had to move the entire family 120 miles away, just so Katherine could attend high school. Imagine that, sacrificing everything for the fragile hope of education. Then there was segregation. No matter how brilliant she was, Katherine lived in a world that told her, "You don't belong." When she applied to graduate school at West Virginia University, she was one of only 3 black students and the only black woman. Walking into a classroom, she felt the stares, the whispers, the weight of being unwanted. And yet, even as doors slammed shut, Katherine kept pushing forward. But nothing could prepare her for the greatest challenge: breaking into the world of space science, a field dominated by men, where women were barely given secretarial roles, and where people of color were pushed to the margins. When she joined NASA, then known as NACA, 1953, she was placed in a segregated computing unit, literally labeled colored computers. Her job was to perform mathematical calculations by hand, sitting in the back, away from recognition, away from credit. Can you imagine that? To have a mind capable of changing history, but being told you're just a human calculator? There were moments of deep doubt, nights where she questioned if her work would ever matter. Days where colleagues ignored her presence in meetings. Even bathrooms were segregated, forcing her to walk half a mile across campus just to use one. But Katherine refused to break. One day, everything changed. In 1962, NASA prepared for one of the most dangerous missions in its history: John Glenn's orbital flight. The mission was groundbreaking, America's first attempt to send a man to orbit the Earth. The stakes were life and death. A single error in trajectory, even by a fraction of a degree, could send Glenn hurtling into the ocean, or worse, into oblivion. NASA had begun using electronic computers for the calculations, but the technology was still new and unreliable. Glenn, knowing the risk, made one unusual request. Before stepping into his capsule, he said, "Get the girl to check the numbers. If she says they're good, I'm ready to go." The girl he was referring to was Katherine Johnson. In that moment, the weight of the mission, the life of an astronaut, the pride of a nation, the race against the Soviet Union all rested on Katherine's shoulders. She took her pencil, her graph paper, her brilliant mind, and began to calculate. Hour after hour, number after number, she double-checked every detail of the trajectory. When she finished, she looked up and said with quiet confidence, "The numbers are correct." That single statement gave John Glenn the courage to climb into the Friendship 7 capsule. And when the rocket roared into the sky, history changed forever. Glenn orbited the Earth 3 times and returned safely. And Katherine Johnson, the farmer's daughter, had just helped launch America into the space age. After that turning point, Katherine's role at NASA could no longer be ignored. She became an essential part of the space program. She went on to calculate the trajectory for the Apollo 11 mission, which carried Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon. She helped plan the emergency return path for Apollo 13 when disaster struck mid-space. Each time, her calculations carried lives on the line. But Katherine's victories weren't just in numbers. She broke barriers for women and African Americans, proving that brilliance knows no gender, no race, no background. She worked tirelessly, often without recognition. Knowing that her contribution wasn't just for herself, it was for every young girl who dared to dream beyond the boundaries set for them. 6. Triumph, achievement. In 2015, at the age of 97, Katherine Johnson received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. President Barack Obama placed the medal around her neck, saying, "Katherine Johnson refused to be limited by society's expectations of her gender and race, while expanding the boundaries of humanity's reach." She lived to see her story told to the world in the film Hidden Figures, inspiring millions of people across the globe. From a little girl in a segregated schoolhouse to a woman whose calculations carried astronauts to the stars, Katherine Johnson had done the impossible. 7. Moral/life lesson. Katherine's life teaches us something powerful. Greatness doesn't come from where you start. It doesn't matter if you're the child of a farmer, the daughter of poverty, or someone the world underestimates. What matters is the fire inside you, the refusal to give up, even when the world says you don't belong. Katherine Johnson proved that persistence can move not just mountains, but rockets. So the next time you feel like your dream is too big, too far, or too impossible, remember her story. Remember the farmer's daughter who looked at the stars and brought humanity closer to them. 8. Thank you and call to action. Thank you for watching this story. Katherine Johnson's journey inspired you. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope today. If you believe in never giving up, if you believe that no dream is too far, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the channel and join me for more stories of unstoppable people who changed the world. Because maybe, just maybe, the next story could be yours.